This is the mini lesson on hair evidence. We're going to start by looking at the biology of hair. So hair is composed of a protein known as keratin, and this is also the primary component of your finger and toenails. It is produced from a structure called the hair follicle, and our hair follicles develop during fetal development, and we don't produce any more after we are born. Hair color is mostly the result of pigments, which are just chemical compounds that will reflect certain wavelengths of visible light that people will observe as a color. And hair has a shape. It can be round or oval, and a texture. It can be curly or straight. And this is influenced heavily by your genes. The physical appearance of hair, you can change it just by what kind of foods you eat, so your nutritional status, and also you can intentionally alter it by heat curling it, perming it, straightening it, coloring it. Where the hair come from on the body, such as the head, arm, or leg, uh, can be determined by how long the hair sample is, the shape of it, size of it, color, and some other physical characteristics. In order to test hair evidence for nuclear DNA, the root must be present. But if the root is not present, you could test it for using mitochondrial DNA. So hair is composed of three principal parts. The cuticle is the outer coating, and it's basically just a bunch of overlapping scales. The cortex is the rich protein structure around the medulla that contains the pigment. And the medulla is the central core. It may or may not be present on your hair samples. So the structure of hair has been compared to that of a pencil, and the medulla would be considered the lead of the pencil. The cortex would be the wood covering on the outside, and the cuticle would be the paint that is put over the wood. So let's look at the cuticle of hair structure. It varies in its scales, so how many there are per centimeter, how much they overlap, their overall shape, and how much they protrude from the surface. It also varies in its thickness and whether or not it contains pigment. Some characteristics of the cuticle may be important in distinguishing between hairs of different species, but are often not useful in distinguishing between different people. The cortex varies in thickness, texture, and color, and the distribution of the cortex is the most important component in determining from which individual a human hair may have come. You got to use a microscope to examine this, and it will reveal the condition and shape of the root and the tip. The medulla may vary in thickness, continuity, whether it's one continuous structure or if it's broken into pieces. So the one on the far right would be continuous, and the one on the far left would be broken into pieces. Um, it varies in its opacity, how much light is able to pass through it. And in some species, it is absent. So, like the cuticle, the medulla can be important for distinguishing between hairs of different species, but will not help much when you're trying to differentiate between hairs of different people. So let's look at some hair fibers. You've got 9 different types of hair shown here. I just want you to look at them, determine which samples you're viewing the cuticle and how they compare, and then in which samples are you viewing the medulla and how do those compare. Once you finish your notes, go ahead and let me know, and I'll give you the practice assignment.